Welcome back everyone, this is Traycon here, the gaming statistician, bringing you another dungeon boss video. Now this one is going to be related to the new Icebloom event that's going on right along with the Ancient Ice event. And I brought you a 3-star strategy for the hard dungeon for the Ancient Ice event. So I figured I'd bring you a 3-star strategy for the Icebloom event. And you can see here I'm on the second to last room, and I'm using Chief Nub Nub, Willow, Tsume, and Stonefist. And they work really well in tandem here. And right now what I'm doing in the last room is it's a pretty easy room. So I'm taking my time and not killing these guys quickly, just using my normal abilities and letting all of my special abilities, as I'm not taking a lot of damage, my special abilities will be coming back. So you can see I've, Voodoo Chant, I'll use that, but that's just so I can get into the last room at full health. But all these other special abilities that do a lot of damage, and especially Stonefist's ability that decreases the defense and attack of the opposing enemies, I'm going to save those things until the end. And Willow's nice evasive shot and those types of things that can really hurt the enemies, they're going to all be useful along with the Tsume's special abilities at the end if I just take my time in this easy dungeon. So taking my time here, almost done now with the last Sir William. Those Sir Williams really aren't an issue. Once you get the archers out of the way, there's not a lot of that you have to worry about in terms of taking damage. So now we're taking, once again, this team, Chief Nub Nub, Stonefist, Willow, and Tsume. So they do a nice job of buffing each other, and then I'm going to kind of show you the main thing with this strategy when we get there. So I'm going to go ahead here and use a polar pounding, and I'm not really trying to get myself a ton of damage. If I wanted to use a lot of damage, I'd use something like barrel toss from a friend, or soul shred from a friend. But the nice thing about polar pounding is it just gives me that extra round to set up the attack and get ahead. So I'm going to use polar pounding here. This will freeze them. It really won't do any damage. They'll heal up because they're like immune. I don't know exactly how it works, but they're immune to some of the freeze stuff. And it won't actually freeze Icebloom, but it does freeze 4 out of the 5 there. So that does a really nice job of then giving me 1 extra round when they're frozen to set up the attack. And I'll kind of show you how this happens. So I'm going to use Willow first here. Just try to hit everyone. Start doing some damage. And you can see it does pretty good damage. She's a 5-star fully ascended, so she's my most powerful hero in terms of how long I have her evolved. And then I'm going to go ahead and use Tsume, and it didn't unfortunately kill anybody. And now Icebloom here, she does a nice ability where she has this blizzard thing that can freeze you, but Stonefist is frozen immune, and some of my other heroes are able to dodge it. So right there, that's the big key. You can see I just used Chief Nub Nub. I use his ability to increase the attack and defense of my heroes. It does 2x attack and defense for my heroes if they're nature. And then I use Stonefist ability where he brings his big stone down on one of the enemies, but it decreases the attack and defense. And right there, I did 5,800 damage, almost 6,000 damage to one of their guys. And that's because my heroes have 2x buff attack and defense from Chief Nub Nub, and the enemies have a -1 buff for attack and defense. And that combination lets me just blow through these guys really quickly. So I can do a ton of damage with both Willow and Tsume here. So you can see that each hit, that one did over 4,000. So she's really just moving through this team quickly just by herself. And now that Tsume is no longer frozen, he can start doing a lot of damage as well. So the nice thing about Chief Nub Nub, if you don't know, you don't even always have to use his heal ability. As long as he crits, he can heal your team up. And your nature heroes aren't going to take a ton of damage just because these are water heroes. And so you can see that, now we use the attack defense buff from Chief Nub Nub, and we also use the attack defense debuff for the enemies, and we're already down to almost just Icebloom. And Icebloom by herself is not that difficult. So really in this encounter, what you want to do is use a friend's hero to first freeze or immobilize the enemies in some way. and that way they won't be able to do a bunch of damage to you. And you use that extra turn when they're frozen. You can do that with I Got Rock, or you can do that with a friend's hero from Selwyn, and you use that extra turn to get yourself buffed up, get the opponent debuffed, and then quickly move through the archers and the phenol toxians on the other team. And then you can see now, once I get down to just Icebloom, it turns into a pretty easy fight. And she has that pretty cool ability where she turns Willow into an ice cube there for a couple rounds. It's just kind of neat. It's a new feature, I think, and I like the way that I hope they continue to add more cool attacks and defenses like that that really just add a lot to the game in terms of what you see. And then now we're going through the process again. So I'm taking away the defense and attack of Icebloom. I'll be able to buff the attack and defense of my team, and then really just my guys against just Icebloom. She's no risk. She's really only a risk when she has those other other heroes helping her. So it's going to be a win. It's going to be 3 stars, just a few more hits here. I use Chief Nub Nub there to hasten Willow just to give her a couple attacks because she can really do a ton of damage. And that makes sense because she can do a few thousand damage a hit at times. So you can see that 3,500 damage, and it ends the attack. While Chief Nub Nub only does 400 or 500 damage a lot of times. So it makes sense to give Willow 2 hits and save Chief Nub Nub, use him as kind of just buffing those guys. And 30 honor scroll is always nice. 13,000 gold. Get some, and then get some other things here as well. So it's a good dungeon to defeat, and you can see that this is a really nice event. It lasts a long time, and if you can beat all of the dungeons, the easy, medium, and hard, I think it really shouldn't be that much of a problem getting Icebloom. You can see here 2 Icebloom and 300 wreaths, 2 Icebloom and 200 wreaths. So I'm getting 500 wreaths plus 5 more Icebloom tokens. And along with these events that you can, if you can beat easy and medium and hard multiple times, which isn't that difficult if you use the right team. If you use the team I just showed you, you're also going to be able to do things like beat Selwyn and beat Yokozuna when they show up. And when they show up, you get even more Icebloom tokens. So I think during the course of this event, it should be pretty easy without even using a heroic summon to hopefully unlock Icebloom. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Keep coming back for more and get those 3 stars. Peace.